So, fantastic. Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming back here. Alex, you was on this stage, I think, 2018, if you recall.
I don't remember, but you said on the way in that I was.
Yeah, well, you were talking about collaboration and working together. How's that all going?
Marvellously.
Okay, brilliant. So, we're going to reflect on some of the things that we heard yesterday and sort of get your views, and also look at how you feel that broadcast TV companies can perhaps roar back into growth in the next sort of 3 to 5 years. Let's start where you are viewership-wise while looking at the overall health of the business. Why don't you just give us an overview of how Channel 4 have been performing?
Okay, so this year's been very good for Channel 4. We're about 21% up in viewing minutes year to date in streaming. Now, given the competition, that's quite a big deal, isn't it? And given that we started streaming, what's now called 4 streaming, but we started in 2006 before the iPlayer, before any other service, to be in that kind of growth still, kind of 18 years in, is quite spectacular. So that is going very well. If we look at total minutes viewed year to date, which is linear plus streaming, we're about flat. Some of our commercial broadcast competition are really shrinking. So I think Sky's year to date about -7, ITV's maybe a -5, Disney's down year to date. Netflix is up year to date. But so you get those years where it kind of moves, but you've got to look at overall, are people watching your brand? Are they watching your shows? And that seems to be going really positively for us.
So would you say that you're bucking a trend if you're sort of going in one direction and the market's perhaps just sliding slightly in the other direction?
I don't think viewers are watching less telly.
No.
Like, viewers are not watching less video. You know, British consumers, obviously not this audience because you're all working, but they're watching 5 hours of video a day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on the tube, like, nobody's reading a newspaper, are they? Like, people are watching video all the time. That's not going away. The question is, what services are they watching that video on, and how are you making money from it? But there's no sign of people watching less high quality content. If anything, consumers are overwhelmed by choice. Like, we all know it. There's too many things. You're like, what thing am I meant to be watching? We're all keeping little lists, waiting to see who recommends what. The question is, as a business, is how do you cut through? How do you make sure they're coming to your brand?
Well, how do you do that then? So what's contributing towards your growth, would you say?
Well, being really clear with the big shows, you know, so if that's Gogglebox or Bake Off or Married at First Sight, the gift that keeps giving, which you told me yourself that you and your wife
Yeah,
like to
you know
watch
what? Catherine's fuming. It's not on Hey You. I don't know if anyone who lives abroad, but great show in Australia, and we can't get the English one.
Yeah, but you told
Why's
me
that?
you come to London, check into a hotel and start watching Channel 4 in your bedroom, which is a sign of a long-standing marriage.
I was buttering her up in the green room, clearly.
No, but that, you know, you've got to have big brands like that. You've got to have things that people really love. I think we summed it up as there were like 3,000 years of Married at First Sight watched in a month. So you've got to have those shows. You've got to have things that make people think they trust your brand.
Yeah.
So also, like, you know, the big factual stuff we do, you know, innovative things like The Jury or The Push or Catching a Killer, you know, the things that make people think this has got something to say to me about Britain today as well. So you've got to have that range so that people know what your brand stands for. But you need to have big things that they want. And then all the work now is much harder as TV companies, is like advertising in the right place, marketing things in the right place, cutting through, making sure people feel emotional about your brand, and then making sure you can make money from it.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that. But let's talk about the pesky younger viewers, which is always something we like to talk about. So we talk about your streaming audience makeup, but why don't you actually talk about your social and digital strategy? Because I think that's different. It's kind of unique, and you've got a particular mandate within your company to build on that quite aggressively. What are you doing there that's different, and how is that driving audiences from these social platforms to your TV networks?
Yeah, I wouldn't call the younger viewer pesky. I would just say
they're fickle.
No, they're not fickle. They've just grown up with a lot of choice. You know, if you look at Gen Z, they've grown up. They've always had a phone. They've grown up. The iPhone came out in 2007. They've always had a phone. They've always had ubiquitous Wi-Fi. They've always had fast broadband. They've always had choice.
Yeah.
You know, they've never had to go to the library to borrow a book, have they? So they've just had they've never had to go, what's on now? I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really different world. So you have to work much harder, which means you've got to kind of go where they are and appeal to them. But to go back to your social strategy, so streaming for us is much younger than for other players. About 30% of our streaming minutes are made up of young people. That's quite high.
When you say young people, what's the demo?
That would be 16 to 34.
Okay.
But 16 to 25s would be much more on kind of YouTube or Insta or Snap or TikTok, where we're creating social content, which is about marketing our programs to watch on us or elsewhere. And then we're also creating new content, Channel 4.0, with shows like Tapped Up, which creates a whole new set of viewers. And we're also distributing our traditional content, if you like, long-form content through YouTube and other platforms. So for us, that's a couple of billion views a year, which is big. Like we've got a whole team of people in Leeds, average age 26, so I feel very, very old if I go there. And they're doing that because they're digital natives and they know how to work on those platforms. But our view is you've got to think about where the audience actually is. And particularly for a younger demographic, they've grown up with YouTube. They have grown up with YouTube and they're used to that as well as television. So you've got to kind of catch them on the platforms where they are.
Taking out YouTube, when you said Snapchat, TikTok and all that, are you just repurposing your existing content and putting bite-sized bits on there to try and bring them into your environment? Is that the way, or can you make money by putting content on those platforms?
Well,
outside of YouTube, because we have a separate chat about YouTube.
Okay, so if you take TikTok, so if you take news, we have a brilliant news program which is on every night at 7. It's quite serious. It's fantastic, investigative, international. But the same team make a lot of content for social. So they have about 1.5 billion views a year this year, the news team. About 54% of that's on TikTok. So actually that's a real growth platform. But it is the same news, but is made very differently. So if you're trying to put that news out on TikTok, it can't be like a 3-minute package that you've repurposed. It has to be sort of arresting content from the first frame. You have to make it through the first second. You have to have an image that is thumb-stopping to get people to watch for like 20, 30 seconds. But that works really well now they've worked out how to make it for that platform. And it can be really meaty topics. It's a very young demographic, but it might be Ukraine, it might be Gaza, it might be, should we call UK politics meaty? Yes. It might be like serious. So we've worked out how to work on those platforms, but you're also right that monetization there can be a real problem.
As in, you're not making money on them, it's just costing you money?
With that kind of news on TikTok at the moment, we're not making money from it. So it's worth us thinking about how we could do that.
Okay, and obviously we've spoken a lot about this. You've done a lot of work. You've got some positive data. You've done a lot of audience work on Channel 4. You're doing lots of work, obviously, attracting younger audiences. The narrative in the TV world is, oh, look at what the streamers are doing. The streamers are doing this, and then the broadcasters are kind of sometimes viewed as less innovative and less interesting. Does it frustrate you that that is becoming a bit of a narrative? Particularly when I saw at the RTS thing. I don't know if it was you who said this, but like 19 of the top 20 shows in the UK were actually from the commercial broadcasters. Do you think that broadcasters get the recognition that they deserve from an audience perspective? Or do we talk up the others too much?
Yeah, I think, look, from an audience perspective, it comes out in the numbers. So the audience watch where they're watching, and it's in the statistics of...
Some of the advertisers don't believe it, though, do they?
Well, so maybe, I think you get the credit from the audience. Audiences don't always remember like what shows from what platform, but they are watching them. So you obviously are getting the credit because they're doing it and they're watching the ads that are in the shows. I think from the industry is a good question because we in the industry are not always representative of the average demographic. So most people here aren't watching telly in the day. Most people here probably aren't like switching the telly on when they get home when they're making tea, but quite a lot of people are. So we're not always representative,
That's been a problem for a long time.
So I think you have to look at the actual data of what people are doing and where they're watching. And remember that consumers, when they have so many shows to pick from, become overwhelmed. Like we all become overwhelmed by choice. And then we go back to brands we trust, shows we know. That's why you see big shows get bigger and stay on for longer, because we think, actually, I know exactly what it is, I want to watch more of that. So I think that will sort of even out. You also see consumers, especially when it's economically tough, they can't afford all these subscriptions. Young people really happy to watch.
In my household, I'm paying a fortune, and some of the services are crap.
Just come back to free television.
Yeah, no, well, I live in Canada, so it's harder that because I watch a lot of sport. And hey, it's bloody expensive now. But
also, people are happy to watch ads. You know, that's another, like...
When they're good, yeah.
Yes, but generally, client ads that are on television are high quality. Clients have invested in them. They want them alongside high quality program. They don't want someone looking at the button that says, only looking at the little cross, skip, skip, skip. No, they want it alongside high quality content, and they want to know it's trusted, and they want to know that they can measure it.
Yeah.
That's important. There are things for us to do to be more flexible and to make sure that we're easy to buy from, but I don't see that consumers are turning away from ads or that clients are turning away from creating quality advertising.
No, they're not. But this might sound like a really old-fashioned question, and tell me off.
Well, let's see.
Oh, tell me off if it is. What is your split now between linear and digital today, and where are you projecting it'll be in about 3 years' time? Is that old-fashioned? Should we stop talking about that?
No, I think that's a good question. Well,
all right, okay.
Look, I think if you're in a sort of television business, you should be, everyone is, trying to move into digital as fast as possible. That's where there's growth, right? So I would say there is no lack of people wanting to watch content, but the way they want to watch it is on demand, when they want, where they want, right? You know, ideally separate from the rest of their family. So maybe that's
depends on the family.
Yeah. So they. That's not changing, right? What's growing is digital and what's shrinking is linear, unless it's a big live event. So if it's a big live show or it's sports, that's not changing. People are coming together to do that. So the answer is to shift your business into digital as fast as possible, because digital video advertising is a growth market, there's no doubt about it. And big brands still matter, whether that's broadcaster brands or program brands, right? You know, it's hard to launch new things. So for us, we're ahead of market. About 30% of our money is in digital, and that'll go up again next year. We'll hit about 30% this year. The peer set average across Europe is about 11%. So we're ahead, and I think that's really important because it means you've got more of the business.
30% of your income is from the digital
of our revenues is from the digital side. If you look at viewing, it's different. If you're a young consumer in the UK, your total viewing in the day, more than 50% of it is digital platforms and streamed. If you're an older person, it's still quite heavily live and linear, and that balance is going to change. And young people are not, just like I'm not going to go out and start buying a newspaper in the morning, young people are not going to change to thinking I'll only watch it when it's on at 10 o'clock. Like that, people aren't going to they're not going to revert to retro behaviors.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Do you think, this is a yes-no question, I don't think you're going to give me a yes-no answer on it, but I'm going to try my luck. Have broadcasters, do you think they've done a good enough job protecting its core business and then growing into digital?
What's the core business in this question?
Supplying high quality TV services to audiences and making money from advertising, typically.
Yes, yeah.
I think they have.
Have they done that? Yes, I would say on that. Yes, absolutely, because it's still high quality stuff and they still supply to advertisers. Are we, say they, innovating fast enough, making it easier enough for advertisers to buy compared to other platforms, thinking about how we as an industry do enough to innovate to make it easier for them to measure effectiveness? No. So I'm just splitting into, are we doing a good job on the content and the brands and the stuff that people love? Absolutely. Are we moving fast enough to make it easier for clients? Probably not.
Big theme yesterday that was actually, and I'm actually going to move on to that. So obviously TV is a massive dominant force. I got the stats from Ector Price, like 80% of multi-platform TV is delivered by the commercial broadcasters in the UK. Stats are pretty much consistent around the world. However, you're not getting your fair share of ad dollars. And when you marry that up with the effectiveness stuff that you just mentioned, and we've heard it so many times, TV delivers, what do you think is happening there? Why are advertisers not giving more attention to TV companies when clearly it delivers and it's delivering the audiences? What's missing?
Well, I think we've had a tough time economically, haven't we, with COVID and then post-COVID and then ups and downs. So it's natural.
But ad spend is up.
Yes, but it's natural as an advertiser then to be really worried about, can I definitely prove that this is performance marketing and it's working? And I think we've had a phase of that. But I think we'll come back to, I also need to build my brand. And there's only so many mediums you can build your brand simultaneously, right? Because remember, the key thing about television is it's a very wide, very diverse audience simultaneously. So if we're doing shows that are 2 million, 5 million, if broadcasters are doing 10 million, that is extremely different to a very slow burn
Totally
on
agree.
an SVOD that you're seeing bits and pieces here and there. And it's very different to a display advert, which might pop up when you're doing something else that's tracking you through Instagram. So advertisers do see that, but I think we need to do a better job of making it easier for them to buy across the different broadcasters.
Is that the job for your new CRO I met about 5 minutes ago?
He's sitting here, he's ready to go.
To make it easy?
I've got quite a list for him.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
top 3.
yeah.
What's his job?
No, I'm not giving you his job list. Let's not make it too easy for him.
Okay, yeah.
But
So
I
he
think it
doesn't
will
know
be one
what
of
he's
them.
got to do.
Look, he's coming from Spotify. There's a reason he's coming from
Yeah.
a digital platform. Is we have tremendous assets as broadcasters. Remember, like, people come in and they have a big box that's been on the wall their whole life and they turn it on. That's where we are, and we're in the top channels. Like, we'd all give our eye teeth in other businesses to have that, right?
So
with a big logo on
Rack
it.
is no excuse for failure, mate. It's a top brand.
If you go, businesses like Spotify and others have made it easier for clients to buy.
Absolutely.
They've got the technology in place. They've made it easier. They've made it easier for agencies. They've made it easier for advertisers particularly, and that's some of the stuff that we've got to do.
I don't know if this is a daft question or not, but do you like hang out on the sales side at all, like talk to clients and senior agency people? Do you talk
Only at like very expensive dinners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's what I've discovered since I came into this job. It's all of it just exists in that world.
Well, what are they saying to you at these expensive dinners, you know, off the record? You're saying to
look,
them,
I
hey,
think-
you're reducing your spend, and they're like, yeah.
Clients, well, I totally, I don't, they don't say that if you were picking up the bill at dinner.
No.
Clients want it to be easier. Because it's easy to buy
Are they
on
lazy?
global social, but no, I think it's easy to buy on global social platforms. It's easier
Yeah.
for small businesses.
I hate
it's
that. I do
easier
hate that excuse, though.
for media, but it is because they've got the tech stack in place and they've made
Yeah.
it easier. So the question is to us is what are we doing to make that easier? There's lots of innovation across the industry, and you've heard about some of it today.
Yeah.
But we've also got to work faster to do that.
Do you think on that innovation of simplification and all that, does that have to come from you guys working together, Channel 4, ITV, Sky, the main commercial broadcasters in the UK? Do you have to do that as a collaborative
I think
unit?
you do. I think you have to work together more. Yeah, because otherwise it's too difficult for clients, isn't it?
So what are you doing in order to drive
Well,
that?
there's lots of stuff that I can't tell you about yet.
When will we hear about that stuff then?
Yeah, I think next year there'll be more innovation coming in that and
Okay.
more working together coming in it because I think we all realise it. And you've seen bits and pieces of it and
Yeah.
heard of like different things we're doing. But I think, and you hear some of it through ThinkBox and elsewhere, but I think the onus is really on us to work all together to do more of it and that there is the enthusiasm there to do it.
Okay, we were going to ask. I was going to ask you about YouTube. Your general view of extending distribution on the platform is it a must-have for most broadcasters to use those other platforms and tools out there in order to enhance your viewership?
Look, I
quick
think,
one, that.
like we're on YouTube, we put a lot of the long-form content out on YouTube. We manage a lot of the inventory ourselves, so that's quite important for us.
Yeah.
And we can put advertising alongside high-quality content on YouTube. They're a great partner to work with. I think the key thing is that that's not cannibalistic. That's extra reach. So as far as I'm concerned, if I can make money and get extra reach and get the brand in front of people that it might not otherwise be in front of, that's critical.
Okay.
You know, that's what you should be doing to innovate whatever kind of business you're in is can you extend your reach and can you make your brand strong with people? But you've got to do that in a way that you've got enough control to ensure it's like that.
That's a great advice. Next year, we're going to see what announcements that Channel 4 make. You said next year there's going to be something
It'll be Rack's
interesting.
problem.
Be Rack's problem. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Alex for being such a good sport.
Thanks very much.